is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to you with a quick video. I wanted to let you guys know I got some new merchandise available, not just t-shirt anymore. I got different type of t-shirt, different type of shirts and logos that you can purchase on my spread shirt, and also hoodies now. We have expanded and added more to the channel and more merchandise for the brand. Thanks for supporting. It will be in the description and the links will be in the comment section below. Thanks for helping me and supporting the movement. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis. I'm going. What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to y'all with another video for this year. As we get ready to close it out, we're going to talk about the trade rumors of Andre Drummond. Now, first I want to say there's not a team specifically that's trying to trade for Andre Drummond. It's just the Detroit Pistons are in a situation where they're stuck. They're going to consistently fight for a 7th to 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, which is bad considering how bad the bottom of the East is. You would think that they can get a higher seed. Coming into this year, I did think Detroit was going to make it to the playoffs. I wasn't expecting Blake Griffin to miss the first couple of weeks of the NBA season and have more knee problems, as he has already went back out with another injury with the same knee that he's been having problems with. I know it's a little predictable. I know that it can happen, but I thought that the offseason they had brought in a lot of great role players, that Blake Griffin didn't have to do as much as he had to do last year to get this team to win because they upgraded their talent around the whole roster, bringing in a lot of veterans. And Andre Drummond has continued to get better to a certain extent considering where he was 3 to 4 years ago. You look at Andre Drummond averaging 17 points a game, shooting 54% from the field, around the same amount of shots and minutes as last year. And he is shooting a little bit higher from the free throw line, but he's getting there less. And he is averaging more rebounds, but he already had averaged 16 rebounds before, and he has already averaged 3 assists before, but he also giving you 1 block and 1 steal within those minutes. And so far he has been able to stay healthy throughout majority of his career. You have to give him credit on that, and the fact that he always tries to go out there and give whatever he can on the rebounding end, and it has been very impressive considering that he's only 26. Andre Drummond is a guy that's been around for a long time, and people know who he is, and people respect his craft. He has become an all-star in the NBA also, which is a huge achievement for him. And I feel like Drummond has been a guy that people just respect. He's not the most talented center. He's not the most well, we say well-rounded center. And he might have a lot of flaws, but he tries to go out there and does what he knows best, and that's just try to go out there and wreak havoc in the inside. And he still doesn't have a jump shot, doesn't have the three-point shot, kind of a traditional big, but I think his defense isn't at an elite level in my personal opinion right now, and he hasn't really maximized his athleticism to the best of his ability on that end of the floor because he is a fast, quick, and mobile center. You would think that with that type of speed and athleticism and that type of bounce, he'll be an elite defender by now, but that also you have to have the teammates to do that too. It's not just one man going to be a great defender. You need guys on the perimeter to, have a scheme and something that they can follow. And Drummond can only do so much. And I think he has done a decent job so far. He has improved significantly on the defensive end over the last couple of years. And that's important considering that this has been a team with, at the end of the day, Drummond being their best player. Blake Griffin obviously was their best player last year, but at the same time, you can't really depend on him because of the injuries and the problems that he's been having. You kind of need somebody to step up, and that's why we're here today with this video, because this Detroit team, if Blake Griffin cannot stay healthy, and it's going to be hard to trade him just because he can't stay healthy and his production has went down, should they have blow this team up? That's going to be the question, because they really are fighting for an 8th seed in the East. That's nothing to brag about. That's nothing to be happy about. I know you want a competitive roster. I know you want to be able to show you the Detroit that you want to go out there and compete and try to win as many games and not try to go with tanking. But when you look at Reggie Jackson, he's beat up. You look at Blake Griffin, he's beat up. Those are your best players. They haven't been able to stay healthy throughout their whole campaign with the Pistons. And the one that's always there is Drummond. He's the guy with the most trade value. He's the guy that you can get the most back right now. Even though you can let him walk and get the cap space back and you can use it on whoever, you better off trading him and getting some young assets back just because you will get nothing but cap space. But here you can get guys you can build around or picks that can help you get the player that you want or move up in the draft or even just get a couple swings at a couple picks so that way you can rebuild with the players that you want, even if it's multiple. So Andre Drummond not gonna get the hugest trade package because he doesn't have the shooting. He's not a great free throw shooter, and he just not the greatest player at his position. So when you look at teams that he can possibly be traded to, it's few and far between. As the NBA has gotten a lot better, the teams that I hear that people want him to go to is like Golden State, having a guy in the paint that can grab a lot of rebounds, protect the rim with Draymond, and probably switch and guard a couple people on the perimeter. You look at that and say Golden State, but who is you giving up? D'Angelo Russell? Is you giving up Draymond Green? What do you have to give up to get Andre Drummond? As the Warriors don't have that many picks and they already capped out, so I don't really see other than D'Angelo Russell who you would trade for Andre Drummond. But if I'm Detroit, do I want a guy like D'Angelo Russell? The best part about having him is that he's a guy that can shoot. He's a guy that can close and take over games. He's not going to give you much defensively. He's a decent passer and playmaker. But at the same time, you do get long-term commitment as he just signed his extension. So he's going to be around for a while. You don't have to really worry about him leaving outside of Detroit wanting to trade him. But I don't really see how that really helps Detroit because as long as you have Blake and these other guys under contract, you really going to be stuck. And can D'Angelo Russell really take you to that next level and be a serious contender in the East? Or is you still going to be stuck in no man's land where you can't really make that much progress because of the contracts and be stuck as another team, 6th, 7th, or 8th again? It just you will have Russell instead of Drummond. You look at another team they talk about is Boston. What are you willing to give up? A lot of people say give up Gordon Hayward, which makes sense because he is showing that he can compete. He's showing that he can score. He's still a good playmaker and a guy that can be a difference maker at this point. And he has a contract that's about to end. And then you look at the fact that they have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown at that 2 and 3 position, and they still do have Marcus Smart that can play some point or some two, and you still do have Kemba. So you still gonna have a decent roster, but it also fixes their rebounding problem that they have had the last couple of years. It gives them a force with the screens and a guy that can be a guy that can kick out the shooters and read the pick and roll situation. So it opens up a little bit and it gives them something that they don't really have right now. But will that be enough that it warrants that trade? I know that you can still have a solid roster without Gordon Hayward, but is Drummond really worth that commitment knowing that you have to pay him this summer big dollars, and would that get you over the top? Obviously, you won't know until you make the trade, but that's the type of trade that makes you salary cap locked because you still do have to pay Jason Tatum, a thing that a lot of people forget. You paid Jaylen Brown, you paid Kemba, and now you're going to have to pay Drummond this summer, and then you still do have to pay Jason Tatum when his contract comes up. So is it really realistic for Boston to make a trade for Drummond? It might be smart to try to compete this year, but when you look long-term wise, it don't really seem realistic for them to have all those players under contract. And that's one thing that I noticed that was flawed about the Boston Celtics trying to get them. But it's not too many teams. You got the Hawks that can do it. They got to give up some of their young assets, which isn't that bad because, like I said, Drummond is only 26. They do have the cap space to keep him, and they can give him the contract that he wants if they do trade for him. Obviously, you don't really have to worry about Trae Young because he still got a couple more years before his contract extension. Same with Cam Reddish. Same with DeAndre Hunter. Same with Herder. So you're going to have the shooting and the floor space and ability. You can put John Collins back at that power forward position if you need be. And that can really help you too because he's not a rim protector and he's not the greatest inside force in that paint that Drummond could be. but you also got to pay John Collins, but that's down the road. So I think Hawks make a little bit more sense than the other two teams, but I just doubt that they willing to do it. As what are they going to have to give up to get a guy like Drummond, knowing that you're going to have to commit a lot of money to him, but he also might not make you an elite team, but you will be a better team and you will have a higher ceiling. But is that really worth giving up some of your future for a player that is already an all-star caliber player? It sounds like you should do it, but at the same time, down the road, is he a big part of your team? That's going to be the question, and that's why I haven't seen him in a rumor with a team like Atlanta. Um, that's one of the bigger reasons. And also, you look at the rest of the teams that can make a trade for Drummond. Denver has a center. Wolves has a center. Thunder has a center. Portland has a center. Utah has a center. We talked about Golden State. The Clippers don't really need them. The Lakers doesn't either. Phoenix got Aiden. Sacramento got Big Bagley and a bunch of other guys that can play that five position. Dallas, I don't know if they'll commit to Andre Drummond, knowing that they got Porzingis, who can play the four or the five, and you still have good role players on cheaper contracts that can do some of the same things, not the rebounding, but they do fit Luka Doncic, and they at a cheaper contract, which gives them more flexibility. And then you look at Memphis, they got Jonas and Jaren Jackson. New Orleans, they got Derek Favors down there, even though they do need more depth. I don't know if they really want to commit a lot of money to Drummond. And San Antonio, I don't see a situation where I can see them literally making a trade for Drummond. And then you look at Brooklyn, they don't need them because they got Allen and DeAndre. You look at the Knicks, they could be a team potentially that can have room to get them, but he ain't going to make them a playoff team with a team currently constructed, and they have really no coach or no identity, and they have a lot of young guys that's very inconsistent and haven't really hit none of their potential. So that could be a frustrating spot for um, Andre Drummond, and he probably would prefer to stay in Detroit than New York just because they have a better competitive nature and they've been basically better managed than a team like New York over the last couple of years. And then Cleveland, I don't think they make that trade. Indiana got Turner and Sabonis. Milwaukee has their floor spacers, so they don't need them. Charlotte was another place that I would talk about. That's a team that can use a player like Drummond, but they have been stuck in the same place. Detroit has been a team that's good enough to make it to the playoffs or close enough to miss it, but not great enough to really make a run or do anything serious when they make it to the playoffs. So basically, what I'm saying, it only really comes down to 3 to 4 teams that can make a trade for Drummond that makes sense. And teams really have been able to find centers on good contracts and have been able to find guys that may not be all-star level centers, but they feel the need in the position well enough to where they're not struggling or they in a desperate need of a center. And the teams that are on the cusp of winning the title either have a center or they don't want to commit the amount of money that Drummond might want to be able to come in and fill that role, which is the part that is the problem with Drummond. How much money is Andre Drummond worth? Is he really worth the risk? Can he improve any more than he has shown so far in Detroit? And can he really be a difference maker or a ceiling raiser on one of these teams and make them a lot better, make them a serious contender, or make them a championship contender? I don't really see him going to a Pacific team and making them a championship contender. I don't think he's that big of a difference maker. But like I said, he is an all-star caliber center. He has a skill set, which is rebounding, effort, energy, hustle, and he is a good screen setter. But when you look at his ability not to knock down free throws, not to be able to be a three-point or a floor spacer, is really limited to what teams he can go to and get the best out of him, but also complement those players. So I really want to see what happens with Drummond. He's probably one of the more interesting free agents just because everybody knows he can play. Everybody knows that he's a good player. A lot of players respect him, same with the media, same with the fans. But it's also hard to gauge how much money is he worth and how much headache is it really going to be to try to get a trade done to get him to your team. So I don't really know what he's going to do. I don't really know what's going to happen. I just basically gave you my reasons for each team and the teams that should trade him for him and what they get in return. And, Drummond shouldn't be asking for a lot when it comes to trades. It's not like he's a superstar player. Like I said, he's not going to change you to one of the elite teams if you're not already one. So in that case, is he really worth a couple picks? Yeah, I can give a couple first round picks in a young asset, but is he worth what you're getting for these other players? No, I don't think he is. But at the same time, I do respect him. I do feel that he is one of the better players, especially at his position. But I also know that it's about trying to become the best team. And if he's going to be stuck on these other teams, he's probably better off staying in Detroit. But if he wants a change of scenery and a new beginning, maybe getting traded ain't the worst thing. But he might have to come off some of that bread to be able to do it. And if he doesn't, he might just be stuck in Detroit, a team that can't really build a championship team around him. Because a lot of team players don't want to go to Detroit. Plus, they never really get superstars in free agency, which means he can be using their whole prime trying to be a competitive team to make the 7th or 8th seed, but not a legitimate contender. And if you look at his whole career in Detroit, they was never contenders since he's been there, and they're still not contenders now. And him eating up more salary than he's eating up right now only destroys their chances of making themselves a contender, because the more he eats, the less it goes to other players, which means either he's going to step up his play, but if he step up his play a little bit, they're not really going to get the full value out of this roster, as he's going to have to take a majority of that salary. And like I said, in the history of Andre Drummond right now, they have done nothing so far in Detroit. I don't even think they won a playoff series with Drummond so far. And if that's the case, he might not be worth the trade. But let me know what you guys think. Like this video, check out my older videos on my channel. I have many playlists. I break down rookies, I break down players, I break down summer league. I do cover the draft, and I got a mock draft up already. Not only that, I do podcasts, and I also talk about the game of basketball, whether it comes to summer league, free agency, trade deadline, buyouts, and also I cover top 10 discussions and stuff like that. So you like this type of video, you like the NBA, check out my older videos and my playlists. I enjoy making these videos. You guys enjoy watching.